Respect isn't given by rank, it's earned by action. That single truth defines the difference between authority and leadership. You can wear the stripes, you can carry the title, you can even command the room with your presence. But if your actions don't match the weight of your position, people will follow you only because they have to, not because they believe in you. Respect can't be demanded. It has to be built, one moment, one choice, one action at a time. In every organization, military or civilian, there are two kinds of power: positional and personal. Positional power comes from your title. It's the authority the system gives you. Personal power comes from who you are, how you treat people, how you perform when the situation demands more than just a signature or an order. When a cadet questions a senior's credibility, it's often not about rank. It's about belief. People will test what they're not convinced of. And that test becomes the moment where real respect is either earned or lost. Actions are the currency of respect. When people see you step up without hesitation, when they watch you take responsibility instead of shifting blame, when you show up prepared, consistent, and accountable, that's when they start to trust you. Respect grows quietly in the background of repeated proof. It doesn't come with applause or announcement. It comes from the recognition that you mean what you say and you deliver when it counts. In a military context, the gap between rank and respect can be wide. A general may carry the highest authority in the room, but if the soldiers under them don't feel seen, valued, or understood, the orders will be followed mechanically, not with conviction. The same goes for a cadet who looks up at someone and wonders, do they deserve that insignia? The only way to answer that question isn't through a lecture about hierarchy. It's through conduct that leaves no room for doubt. Respect has a strange way of testing you when you least expect it. Sometimes it's in the small details, the way you listen, the way you correct someone without humiliating them, the way you give credit instead of taking it. Other times it's in moments of pressure, when everyone's watching how you'll respond. The cadet in the story questioned credentials because she hadn't seen proof yet. That's human. We all measure others through what they show us. But the general's calm, deliberate reaction was the lesson. No anger, no need to assert dominance, just the quiet confidence of someone who knew their record spoke for itself. In that silence, the balance shifted. When the general read her call sign aloud, it wasn't a moment of humiliation, it was revelation. That's what action does. It turns skepticism into respect without a single argument. The cadet froze not because of fear, but because she realized she had misjudged the very person she was supposed to learn from. The truth didn't need defending. It stood on its own. This happens everywhere. In offices, in schools, in teams, titles get handed out, but respect must be earned. The best leaders are those who understand that their position only gives them an opportunity to prove themselves, not permission to look down on others. They don't need to remind anyone who's in charge. Their consistency, their integrity, and their ability to make others better does that for them. Earning respect takes patience. You can't rush it. You can't fake it. People notice everything. How you speak, how you treat subordinates, how you handle mistakes, how you respond when challenged. They remember the times you stood firm and the times you stepped back. Over time, those small moments stack up, building a reputation that can't be questioned. And when people respect you, they'll go further for you than any order could push them. There's also a quiet kind of respect that comes from humility. The ability to admit you don't know everything, to learn from those below you in rank, to show gratitude instead of entitlement. That humility doesn't make you weak. It makes you credible. No one respects arrogance for long. People might obey it, but deep down, they'll wait for it to fail. What they stand behind, what they give their loyalty to, is strength wrapped in humility. Action has a way of cutting through all pretense. When things go wrong, people remember who stayed steady. When the workload increases, they notice who still shows up with focus. When mistakes happen, they see who owns them. You can talk about values, ethics, leadership, but if your actions don't line up, respect fades fast. And once it's gone, no amount of authority can bring it back. Respect earned through action endures even when titles change. People move on, ranks shift, careers evolve, but the impression of how you carried yourself stays. Long after the badges are gone, people remember who they could trust when everything was uncertain, who treated them fairly when others didn't, and who led by example instead of command. That's the kind of respect no one can take away. Doubt can be louder than confidence until proof speaks. In any room, in any team, there's always that quiet tension between what people believe and what they see. Confidence walks in, but doubt whispers. It questions. It looks for cracks. And often, it's not because people want to tear others down. It's because they've seen talk before. They've heard promises, they've watched people act sure of themselves, and they've learned that confidence without evidence doesn't mean much. So when someone stands tall and says they belong, doubt leans forward, waiting for the moment that shows whether that confidence is real or just noise. In a setting like the military or any high-stakes environment, confidence is expected. Every cadet, every officer, every recruit learns to project it. Shoulders back, eyes forward, voice steady. But doubt still lingers in the corners. It doesn't care about your tone, it cares about your results. And that's where the difference begins, between those who speak like they know and those who act like they've earned it. The louder someone talks about their ability, the more doubt they sometimes attract. People are naturally skeptical of performance without proof. They'll wait, they'll test, they'll question, and they'll observe. Doubt isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the silent motivator that pushes you to sharpen yourself, to make sure your actions can hold up under scrutiny. When someone doubts you, it stings. It makes you want to defend yourself. But the smarter move isn't to argue, it's to perform. Because the moment you prove what you're capable of, doubt has no more ground to stand on. Proof speaks a language that shuts every question down. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It simply exists, undeniable and clear. The cadet who questioned the general's credentials wasn't doing it out of cruelty. She was responding to that natural human instinct to test authority. It's easy to assume that someone in a higher position has it easy, that they just climb the ranks through connections or convenience. It's a cynical thought, but a common one. When the cadet asked that question, she wasn't just challenging the general. She was voicing the doubt of everyone who had ever felt small under authority. It was bold, but it came from a place of disbelief that someone so composed could have earned it the hard way. Then came the proof. Not a defensive speech, not an emotional reaction, just a calm revelation. The general didn't meet doubt with argument. He met it with fact. The call sign, the record, the history, all of it carried the weight of experience that couldn't be faked. And when he read it aloud, doubt didn't just fade, it froze. Because in that moment, confidence had transformed into something undeniable. That's the thing about proof. It silences what confidence alone never could. In life, doubt is always going to be louder at the start. People will question your right to be in the room, your background, your choices, even your silence. They'll mistake humility for weakness and confidence for arrogance. But the moment you show them through consistency, through competence, through results, their tone changes. Respect follows proof, not noise. The ones who doubted you might never apologize, but their silence becomes acknowledgement enough. The tricky part is not letting doubt break you before proof arrives. Many people crumble under skepticism because they confuse doubt with rejection. But doubt is actually an invitation, a challenge to rise. It forces you to ground your confidence in something real. Confidence that has never been tested stays fragile. Confidence that's been questioned, attacked, and rebuilt through action becomes unshakable. You stop needing to prove yourself to others because your record already does it for you. Confidence without proof can be empty, but proof without confidence can go unnoticed. That balance between believing in yourself and backing it up with substance is what earns credibility. The people who truly stand out are those who don't let doubt dictate their pace. They keep moving, keep working, keep showing results until even their critics can't argue. They understand that every word they say means nothing without the evidence behind it. Sometimes proof doesn't even have to be loud. It can be a quiet consistency that people start noticing over time. You don't always have to announce your wins or defend your worth. The results build their own voice. The cadet learned that the hard way. She saw in one instant what experience really looks like, not in words, not in titles, but in undeniable history. Proof doesn't need introduction. It carries its own authority. And when proof finally speaks, doubt has no choice but to listen. It's not about revenge, not about making someone feel small, but about letting reality settle where speculation once stood. People will always doubt what they can't yet see. But when your actions start showing, when your record begins to speak louder than your words, everything shifts. Confidence becomes quiet. Proof becomes powerful. And in that silence, respect finally replaces doubt. Every uniform hides a story you don't know. When people look at someone in uniform, all they see is the surface, the color, the medals, the posture, the way they walk in sync with others. It's easy to forget that behind that disciplined image is a person with fears, struggles, sacrifices, and memories stitched into the fabric of that uniform. Each thread holds something unseen, a choice that was made, a moment that changed them, a scar that never healed. We salute the uniform, but too often, we overlook the human being wearing it. Every cadet, every officer, every soldier carries a story that began long before the day they put on that uniform. Some came from families that served for generations. Others joined to escape something, poverty, doubt, or pain. Some wanted pride, some wanted purpose, some wanted redemption. You don't see those reasons when they stand in formation. You just see unity. But that unity is built out of 1,000 personal stories, each one shaped by a different journey. And that's what makes it powerful, the diversity of experience that hides behind the sameness of appearance. The cadet who questioned the general's credentials saw only the rank, the posture, the authority. To her, it looked like privilege. Maybe she thought the general had it easy, someone born into advantage, someone who never had to fight for a place. What she didn't see were the years of work behind that calm face. She didn't see the sleepless nights, the missions, the failures, the personal losses that shaped that leadership. She saw the uniform, but not the human cost that came with it. That's how misjudgment begins, when we assume the story we can't see doesn't exist. Uniforms are designed to erase individuality. They're symbols of equality, of shared mission. But under that equality, every person has their own reasons for standing there. One might wear it in honor of a father who never came home. Another might wear it because it's the first thing that gave them structure in a chaotic life. Another might wear it to prove that someone from their background could make it. Those stories don't show up on the surface. They're tucked behind the salute, hidden in the discipline, carried quietly in the way they stand and the way they serve. It's human nature to judge what we can see. We categorize people in seconds. We assume, we guess, we fill in blanks with whatever fits our understanding. But when it comes to people who serve, in uniform or not, that surface tells us almost nothing about the reality underneath. The smile might hide exhaustion. The confidence might mask insecurity. The calm might come from surviving too much chaos. People who wear uniforms learn to control their emotions, to keep composure at all times. But just because they don't show it doesn't mean they don't feel it. That's why moments like when the general read her call sign matter. It was more than a name. It was a story revealed in an instant. It was proof that behind that uniform was someone who had lived through more than the cadet could imagine. Every call sign has meaning, sometimes a mission, sometimes a moment that defined a career. When that story came out, the room's perception shifted. The cadet wasn't just looking at a general anymore. She was looking at someone whose story had weight, someone who had earned every inch of that uniform. This happens beyond the military too. Police officers, doctors, firefighters, pilots, nurses, anyone who wears a uniform carries a story that the world rarely asks about. People judge them by how they look or by what their title suggests, but they forget that each one carries invisible burdens. The rookie might be wearing the uniform for the first time with shaking hands. The veteran might be wearing it for the 1,000th time, haunted by memories of when it almost cost them everything. You can't see that by looking. You have to listen, you have to ask, you have to care. Every salute, every command, every decision comes from a person who has lived through something. Some have lost friends in the line of duty. Some have faced moments of fear they never talk about. Some have pushed through pain just to stand where they are. The uniform may look perfect, but it hides cracks filled with resilience. It's easy to respect the symbol, but real respect comes when you understand the story. When you meet someone in uniform, what you're really seeing is the end of a long road that started far from where they stand now. You're seeing the result of years of discipline, learning, failing, and rising again. Every medal or stripe might represent a moment of courage or a lesson learned the hard way. Every crease in that fabric could tell a story if it could speak. But the person wearing it doesn't always share those stories. Not because they don't matter, but because they've learned that silence is part of the job. That's why judgment based on appearance always falls short. The cadet's question came from a place of ignorance, not malice. She didn't know the story behind the general's calm. But once she did, her perception changed. Every uniform hides a human story, one of sacrifice, of effort, of resilience. And until you know that story, you don't really know the person wearing it. Leadership is measured by grace under scrutiny. Anyone can lead when things are calm, when orders are followed without question, when the air feels safe and predictable. But the real test of leadership comes when pressure builds, when eyes turn toward you for answers, when someone challenges your credibility in front of everyone. That's when the mask of authority falls away, and what's left is the person underneath, how they think, how they respond, and how much composure they can hold when it feels like everything is on the line. Grace in those moments isn't about staying quiet or being passive. It's about having control over emotion, about showing strength without aggression and confidence without ego. When the cadet questioned the general's credentials, every person in that room felt the tension shift. It was an open challenge, unexpected, bold, maybe even disrespectful depending on who you asked. All eyes went to the general, waiting to see how he'd react. Most people in authority would have snapped back, reminded the cadet of her place, made an example out of her. That's the easy way to assert power, through fear. But leadership isn't about fear, it's about influence. It's about turning that moment of challenge into a moment of learning. And the way the general handled it showed exactly why he deserved that title. Grace under scrutiny isn't about perfection. It's about restraint. The general could have crushed that cadet's confidence with a single sentence. He could have used his authority to embarrass her. But instead, he paused. He let the silence do the heavy lifting. He didn't rush to defend himself or his reputation. He didn't need to. That calm was not weakness, it was strength. In leadership, grace often looks like patience. It's the ability to step back when pride wants you to step forward. It's the understanding that every reaction teaches the room what kind of leader you are. True leadership shows its value not in how it commands loyalty, but in how it earns respect when questioned. Anyone can demand obedience. It takes real character to inspire it. The general's decision to answer the challenge with quiet authority instead of anger sent a message more powerful than any reprimand could. He showed that power doesn't need to shout. The calmness, the deliberate choice to stay composed, made everyone watching see that leadership isn't about proving who's right. It's about proving what's right. Grace under scrutiny also means knowing when to let the facts speak. When the general opened the file and read her call sign aloud, it wasn't a move to humiliate. It was to remind. He didn't have to raise his voice. He didn't have to justify his position. The truth, when revealed with calm precision, has its own gravity. It lands harder than any lecture could. The cadet froze, not out of fear, but out of realization. She had questioned someone whose story carried more weight than she could have imagined. That's the kind of impact grace creates. It humbles without destroying, teaches without shaming. Every leader faces a moment like that, where they're being watched, evaluated, silently judged. It might not always happen in public, but it always happens. The people around you notice how you handle pressure. They remember how you speak when you're criticized, how you act when someone crosses a line, how you treat someone who's wrong but brave enough to challenge you. Those moments shape the kind of culture a leader builds. If you lead with ego, you teach fear. If you lead with grace, you teach respect. The difference between authority and leadership lies in how you respond when authority is tested. Anyone can give orders. Only a real leader can guide through example. Grace under scrutiny isn't about pretending the challenge doesn't sting. It's about showing that composure matters more than reaction. It's about keeping control of yourself so that others can trust you to stay in control when things get harder. The best leaders are remembered not for how loud they spoke, but for how steady they remained when things got loud around them. It's also important to understand that grace doesn't mean softness. It doesn't mean ignoring disrespect or pretending nothing happened. It means responding in a way that elevates the situation instead of escalating it. The general didn't lose authority by being calm. He strengthened it. Because in that stillness, he reminded everyone that leadership isn't about emotion, it's about purpose. It's not about putting people in their place. It's about helping them find perspective. The cadet learned more from that quiet moment than she ever could from a reprimand. Leadership is a mirror. The people you lead reflect what they see in you. If they see panic, they'll feel panic. If they see anger, they'll learn fear. But if they see grace under pressure, they'll learn composure. That's how strong teams are built, not by fear of authority, but by trust and steadiness. When people believe that their leader won't break when tested, they find confidence in their own resilience. Grace under scrutiny is the foundation of lasting influence. It shows maturity, empathy, and wisdom all at once. The general didn't have to say he was in control. Everyone could feel it. That's what leadership looks like when it's real. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, composed, and powerful enough to command respect without asking for it. Moments of truth reveal more than years of service. It's easy to look good on paper, to have the right titles, the polished resume, the medals that shine under bright lights. But when pressure hits and there's nowhere to hide, all of that fades. What's left is raw character. Those single moments, often unexpected, expose who someone really is, what they value, how they think, how they lead, and how they stand when the situation stops following the script. Years of training can prepare you for the task, but only moments of truth reveal whether you've actually learned what matters. The general in that hall had lived through countless missions, made decisions most people would never want to face, and earned respect across decades. Yet, in that instant when the cadet questioned his credentials, none of that history was visible. All anyone saw was a senior officer being publicly challenged. Every eye in the room waited to see how he'd respond. It was a moment of truth, a test of leadership, humility, and self-control. How he handled it would say more about him than all his years of service combined. That's what moments like this do. They compress time. They turn a lifetime of experience into a few seconds of revelation. Moments of truth don't announce themselves. They arrive without warning. In the middle of a briefing, during a crisis, in a conversation that suddenly turns confrontational. You can't rehearse them, you can't prepare a speech for them, and you can't fake your way through them. They're the mirror that reflects the truth of your character. When everything happens fast, instinct takes over. And instinct is shaped by who you really are. That's why preparation matters, not just in skills, but in mindset. When pressure rises, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your discipline. The cadet's question was more than just disrespect. It was an unintentional test. Everyone in that hall had their own reaction, some shocked, some amused, some curious. But only one person's reaction mattered. The general's pause changed everything. He didn't show anger or insecurity. He didn't rush to assert dominance. He let the silence settle, and in that calm, the room realized they were witnessing something beyond rank. That's what separates experience from wisdom. Experience gives you knowledge. Wisdom teaches you timing. The general knew that the right response wasn't about defending his name. It was about teaching a lesson without saying it out loud. Moments of truth also reveal integrity. They show whether a person's values are real or just words they use when it's convenient. You can't claim patience and then lose control the moment someone questions you. You can't claim humility and then let ego speak louder than reason. The general's choice to handle the situation with quiet confidence wasn't just strategy, it was integrity in motion. It showed that his respect for the position was greater than his pride. And that simple choice turned what could have been conflict into a moment of understanding. For the cadet, that moment became a defining one too. She had probably expected a scolding, maybe even punishment. What she got instead was revelation. When the general read her call sign aloud, the tone shifted completely. The words carried weight, history, and meaning that she hadn't seen before. That's what truth does. It humbles. It breaks assumptions. It teaches without humiliation. In that instant, she didn't just see a uniform or a title. She saw the person behind it, the journey that built the authority she had questioned. And for everyone watching, it became clear that years of service mean little unless they shape a character that can handle a moment like this. In leadership, there are countless small decisions that build reputation, but it only takes one moment of truth to define it. People remember how you acted when things went wrong, when someone tested your patience, when chaos demanded clarity. Those are the moments that stay in the memory of others long after the words fade. Because in that brief window, people see who you are without filters, without planning, without control, the real you. Moments of truth don't care about status. They test everyone equally. A cadet can face one in her first training exercise. A general can face one after decades of service. The difference lies in how prepared they are to meet it. Some freeze, some overreact, some rise. But those who rise do it not because they want to look good, but because they've built themselves to stay steady when things turn unpredictable. Those moments also have a strange way of revealing what kind of respect someone truly deserves. When people see grace, courage, and clarity under pressure, they remember it. It becomes part of your story. The general's calm response didn't just handle a situation. It inspired everyone who saw it. They learned more from that one display of restraint than from a dozen lectures about leadership. That's what true service builds, not just years of experience, but the ability to handle the unexpected with dignity. Every person, no matter their field, will face a moment like that at some point. A moment that strips away reputation, support, and excuses, leaving only you and your choices. In that space, you find out what your years have really taught you. Whether you panic or stay calm, whether you react or respond, whether you lead or control, that's where your true self emerges. Those seconds can define how people see you for years afterward. And in those seconds, everything you've ever practiced, believed, and stood for comes to the surface without needing words. A call sign can carry more weight than a title. Titles are assigned, call signs are earned. A title tells people what you are supposed to be, but a call sign tells them who you've proven yourself to be. It's not something you choose or request. It's something the field gives you, sometimes out of respect, sometimes out of what you've survived. Behind every call sign, there's a story, a reputation, a legacy. It represents how you showed up when it mattered most, how you responded under fire, how you treated the people who stood beside you. Titles can be printed, call signs are lived. When the general read her call sign aloud, the room went still. The cadet who had questioned her credentials didn't yet understand what those few words meant. To her, it was just a name, short, sharp, unfamiliar. But for everyone else who knew the story behind it, that call sign carried history. It wasn't just a label. It was a summary of everything the general had done to earn her place. In that moment, no rank or explanation could have carried the same impact. That's the power of a call sign. It holds truth that can't be argued with. A title can tell people where you stand in the hierarchy, but it doesn't tell them how you got there. A call sign fills in that silence. It's shaped by the moments that test you, the times when your decisions mattered, when your courage was measured not by orders, but by instinct. It's the mark of identity that comes from proving yourself in situations where there was no guarantee you'd come out whole. Some call signs come from a single act of bravery. Others come from years of consistency, from always being the one who could be counted on. Whatever their origin, they become a part of who you are, something that speaks louder than any formal introduction ever could. The cadet's question was rooted in misunderstanding. She saw the rank, assumed privilege, and doubted merit. But when the general's call sign echoed through the room, the misunderstanding evaporated. Call signs don't lie. They aren't given for convenience or politics. They come from action, from what people remember about you when no one else was watching. Hearing that call sign was like opening a door to a past the cadet hadn't imagined. missions, risks, leadership, decisions that shaped lives. It was a reminder that respect isn't built by what's written next to your name, but by what your name stands for when spoken out loud. In the military, a call sign often becomes more recognized than a full name. It's not just a nickname, it's a seal of identity. It can reflect a defining moment, a flaw turned into strength, or a reputation earned through discipline and grit. Sometimes it's humorous, sometimes it's solemn, but it always carries weight. When someone calls you by that name, they're acknowledging what you've done and who you are in the eyes of your peers. It's respect coded into a single word. That's why, when the general's call sign was read, the laughter stopped. The room recognized that sound, not the sound of authority, but the sound of earned reverence. Titles can change. You can be promoted, reassigned, retired. But a call sign stays with you. It's not attached to your role, it's attached to your legacy. Even when the uniform is gone, the people who served with you will still remember you by it. They'll tell stories about what you did, how you led, what you stood for. It's the kind of recognition that doesn't need ceremony or medals. It's the mark of someone whose actions left an imprint that time can't erase. The difference between a title and a call sign mirrors the difference between authority and authenticity. Authority can be given. Authenticity must be proven. The general didn't have to defend her position because her call sign already spoke for her. It carried the weight of her choices, her resilience, her integrity. It reminded everyone in that hall that leadership isn't about what's written on your uniform. It's about what you've done when no one else could have stepped up. For the cadet, hearing that call sign wasn't just a lesson in hierarchy. It was a lesson in meaning. She realized that what she had questioned wasn't the general's authority, but her own understanding of what that authority meant. She had seen only the surface, not the story underneath. The general didn't need to raise her voice or prove herself. Her history already had. That single word, spoken with calm assurance, told the cadet everything she needed to know about the difference between holding a position and earning one. Outside the military, the same truth applies. In every profession, there's a difference between the title you hold and the reputation that follows you. People may respect your position, but they remember your actions. You can be a manager, a doctor, a teacher, a pilot. The title tells them your role, but your behavior tells them your worth. Over time, the reputation you build becomes your version of a call sign. It's the thing people say when you're not in the room, the way they describe you when your name comes up. It can't be self-declared, it has to be earned. A call sign is more than a symbol. It's a truth condensed into a name. It tells a story of effort, courage, and credibility. When spoken, it commands silence because it represents more than status. It represents history. That's why when the general's call sign was read, no one needed further explanation. The cadet didn't need to be corrected. She just needed to understand. And in that moment, with one word, she did.